aboard the Athletics Can't Wait Jets podcast, your nonstop shop for all things Jets. Now here are your hosts, Tim McMaster and Connor Hughes. Listen safely.
Can't wait.
Hey everyone, welcome into another episode of the Can't Wait podcast. It is December 3rd, Friday, December 3rd. Tim McMaster here along with Connor Hughes and Marissa Morris getting you ready for Jets and Eagles on Sunday at MetLife Stadium. It'll be the Eagles' second straight trip up to the New Jersey Turnpike. Last week didn't go so well. They fell to the Giants 13-7. We'll talk about the game. We'll talk about some key injuries on the Jets, how that may affect them into the game. But before we get to all of that, it's already been mentioned in the chat. I'm impressed by the listeners. We got to talk about the fish that went to school that Connor has shined a light on thanks to Twitter, and it has now gone viral. I think 1,200 likes on Twitter. Just explain this story, Connor. It is so funny.
Yeah, it's actually why we're late, because it's like I woke up this morning on time. I woke up at 8:30, like ready to go, make my coffee, come in here and start the podcast at 9:15. And NBC contacted me because they want to do a show they want to do this little like clip of what happened here on the Today Show for NBC.
They should just take this part of the podcast and run it.
Yeah, really. At least promo the podcast. I know, because they were like, "Oh, we'd love to ask you some questions about it." I was like, honestly, it's not my kid, so here's my cousin's contact information. So they're gonna go contact Lauren and everything. But if you guys know about my family in any way, shape, or form, crazy, wild, insane stuff tends to happen. Which is why when this happened, obviously we're all journalists, so we're all cynical to some extent. You obviously learn to like not believe it, but when crazy, unexplained, are you serious things tend to happen in my family, you just kind of go, okay, yeah, that's probably true. So I'm sitting at work yesterday, and my cousin texted me, Lauren, and she goes, "Hey, we were talking about something." She goes, like, "Man," she goes, "I kind of need a Xanax because I just got a call from Peyton's school that she took her fish with her in her sippy cup." And I was like, "What?" And she goes,
"So amazing."
Yep. Yeah. She goes, "What?" She goes, "Yeah." She goes, "Apparently she woke up in the morning and the fish's name is Mermaid or something like that. And she loves Mermaid, and she didn't want Mermaid to be left at home while she went to school. So she got up, and it's a betta fish. So it's in like the little fish bowl sitting on the counter. And when my cousin was making breakfast for the kids, like her and her older brother, Johnny, she took her sippy cup, she scooped the fish out, or she put water in the cup, grabbed the fish with her hand, put the fish in the cup, twisted it, and went to school. And the only reason that anyone found out about it was because Peyton forgot that there was a fish in her cup. So at lunchtime, the teachers were like, "Hey, take out your lunch and everything like that." And Peyton went to go drink her drink. And all of a sudden, her teacher noticed something moving in the cup and was like, "What the hell is that?" And looked, and it was a betta fish. So you can kind of see the pictures there of what my cousin was dealing with yesterday with the betta fish going to school and Peyton taking her there. So wild, insane, crazy, and kind of just a glimpse into the life of my family.
And the good news, the happy ending here is, and probably because it was a betta fish, and those things are just tough, man. Those things can live through anything. The fish is still alive, right? Back home in its fish tank.
Yep, the fish is alive. Everyone is fine. So it's a happy story that ends well. They got the fish, because that's the first thing I said. I was like, "Is the fish dead?" Nope, fish is alive. All is good in Fishland.
I just love the photo of her smiling, holding it. Like, I just can't imagine A, your cousin getting that text, and B, being the teacher who like has so much to deal with and has probably all these funny stories on a daily basis. I've a whole family of teachers, and they share the funniest stories, but I honestly don't think I've ever heard something that great. Like, just what's in your sippy cup, and it's a live fish. So shout out to Peyton. She made all of our weeks. That was very, very funny.
Yeah, that's the funny thing, is that when it actually happened, like when this all like came to when this all like happened, like I was like, that is just wild. But now I started seeing, like, obviously I tweeted it. So I asked my cousin, I was like, "You mind if I tweet it? Because I think this is just like gold." And she goes, "Yeah, go ahead. I don't care." She goes, "Go make Peyton famous." And I've been reading some of the mentions that have sent to me. And one Twitter user had a similar experience. She goes, "If we ever see each other in person, let me tell you about the time my kid took her cat and left it in her book bag, and brought a cat, put it in the book bag, and went on with her day."
The joys of parenting. Tim, you were on starting that journey. Connor and I have ways to go, but very, very cute.
We're still at the biggest excitement is still a big poop at this point. So we got some time before there's fish in sippy cups, but it's good to be prepared. Awesome story. And I guess check it out on NBC, maybe coming up soon. More on the fish that went to school. All right, back to the Jets. And we continue to monitor. We do it every day. You got to lead with Zach Wilson. The latest, though, I want to talk about, Connor, is the fact that he heads into this game with the Eagles. Corey Davis probably out again. Keelan Cole out. Down receivers in a situation where he's still trying to get comfortable. Not the best scenario as we take another step in the Zach Wilson journey.
No, it's not. Sorry, my mouse pad died, and now I'm going to have to try to tweet without doing that. So can you actually just give me like 1 second for me to plug my mouse pad in? Give me like 1 second.
This is also the joys of working with Connor. You never know what's going to happen. Just kind of like a little child at school, bringing their fish to school.
Look at that transition.
You never know on a live stream what Connor's going to do. He could be on his desk. He could be, it's very entertaining.
Well, I have to tweet too, and now this is going to be awful. Because now I have to tweet with my left.
Just tweet from your phone.
I'm not as fast, and Marissa doesn't tweet for me anymore, so I have to do this all myself.
Oh, joy. Well, I will have to say we did do a preview on the Eagles pod yesterday.
And you tweeted for Bo?
No, I did not. And this is a big game for the Eagles because they still have a shot at the playoffs, but if they're not calling it a must win, but they're calling it a can't lose game. So
the Eagles are really talking about the playoffs. That team is talking about
you don't deserve to go to the playoffs once you lose to the
Are they saying that because they mathematically have a shot, or are like those three guys actually saying that they have a chance to make the playoffs?
They mathematically have a shot.
Yeah, there's a mathematical opportunity that I'm going to run into Vanessa Hudgens on the way to work tomorrow. Like, it's not going to happen.
Speaking of, I watched Princess Switch 3 this week to kick off the Christmas movie watching, Connor, with Vanessa Hudgens.
I'm ready now.
So.
Oh, I've seen all of them. I watched all 3.
I've loved her since High School Musical.
Christmas
3 was better than 2. I think 1 was probably the best.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right.
And then
Anyway, back to the question at hand.
Great. All the corny Christmas stuff. Anyone want to message me? I'll send you all of my recommendations. Okay.
All right.
Back
what was the question?
To Corey Davis and Keelan Cole.
Question was Zach Wilson trying to continue to progress here, but down some receivers.
Yeah, I think that's the thing with Zach. I guess we'll just start there is analyzing his play, because that's what I tweeted. I heard Zach Wilson was like, we're going to talk Zach Wilson, which, we're totally off the rocker right today. This is what happens when I don't have coffee, by the way. This is like the bad news, is that I am not firing on all cylinders in any, yeah. Thanks, Michael Dunn. I'm sure we're going to hear about this one on YouTube. I think the thing with Zach is that there's a little bit of pressure on him now. I do genuinely believe that. And you can write off his struggles against the Texans as rust, even though he didn't want to say rust. And I personally, and I've heard people within the Jets tell me like he was rusty and all that stuff, and fans have said he's rusty. I just don't buy into the whole rust thing, because yeah, he's a rookie, but Mike White had never played an NFL game before, and he went out there and threw for 400 against the Bengals. Josh Johnson hadn't played an NFL game since 2018. He went out there and had success against the Colts. Joe Flacco hadn't played a game in over a year. He went out there and had success against the Dolphins. I mean, you have players that do not play that then step in and play well. And when those guys step in and play well, you never hear about rust. It's only when people struggle that you hear about rust. And so I didn't like that excuse. I didn't like that argument. I would have thought more of it being that his knee just wasn't 100%, and he was thinking about his knee, and that he was just still dealing with all of the problems and the struggles that he had dealt with the first 6 starts of his career. He dealt with in start number 7 just 4 weeks later. And this was, in spite of the fact that everyone and their uncle went on and on and on and talked on and on and on about how much better Zach was going to be when he got back out there in the lineup, how he was going to see things better. He was going to understand how to run the offense better. He was going to do this better and that better. And again, it was all because he got a chance to sit and watch. Well, Zach gets a chance to sit and watch. He then goes out there, struggles, and suddenly everyone isn't talking about how much beneficial it was to sit and talk. Suddenly that gap and that time off was now a detriment, right? I mean, that's the way that this works. That's the way that the way that things are explained to you work. That's the way that, spin works. That's the way that fans just trying to grab onto anything to make them feel positive about something works. I mean, this was, oh no, he sat for a month. He's going to be so much better when he gets out there. Then he gets out there and he's not so much better. And then it's no, he's rusty. The time off hurt him. He's hurt by the time off. It's like, well, you can't have it both ways, man. Like, pick one or the other. If everyone's preaching about how much better he's going to be, and then he comes out there and he is not better, You got to say it, and you got to write it, and you got to talk about it. And that's what we've done. And what I'm going to be very curious to see is this is, again, another Eagles team that I don't think is very good. Their defense is better than the Texans, but they're not a great team by any stretch. I mean, Fletcher Cox is getting older. They don't have Brandon Graham. The secondary, when they're not, making the big play with an interception, they can be had and they can be picked on a little bit. But this is a big one for Zach, because if he comes out and plays like he did against the Texans, against the Eagles, if he comes out and plays like he did his first 6 starts absent the Titans game against the Eagles at home, where there's going to be a lot of Eagle fans making the trip an hour and a half up to get to East Rutherford to watch this game for $20 instead of paying $100 to see the Eagles play at home, I think you might honestly have a case of the Boo Birds that are back out there again at MetLife Stadium. It wouldn't surprise me at all to hear chants for someone else's name from MetLife Stadium. I mean, these are fans that want to see the quarterback, and they'll buy in, and they'll say, like, the majority, it's a chunk that'll buy in and say he's a rookie. This entire season is a wash. Just throw like 2 touchdowns the rest of the way, and we'll focus on those 2 touchdowns the rest of the way. But there's going to be a chunk of people that look at this like, okay, he wasn't good for 6 weeks, because he wasn't. He wasn't good against the Texans after a month off. Now he's had a month off, played a game, had another full week of practice, because he's been practicing basically fully for the last 3 weeks. He's now had another full week of practice coming off of a game. There's no rust anymore. He's supposed to be playing better because he had a chance to see all of this stuff and see these things and do these things. He's not. What the hell's the deal? And so I think that there is some added pressure on Zach this week. I think there is going to be some hyped up, pent up kind of emotions to come out there and play well in front of MetLife Stadium. If you think about his first home game against the Patriots, it was bad. If you think about his first time at MetLife Stadium in the green and white scrimmage, it was bad. He's a guy who tends to get a little bit more emotional and a little bit more hyped up and wants to perform and wants to succeed and wants to excel. And that can sometimes take him out of his game. If that happens against the Eagles, an opportunistic defense that if you put passes out there for that secondary to catch, they're actually the opposite of the Jets, because they'll go out there and get it. I mean, Slay's already proven what? He's taken 3 to the house already from like 50-plus yards, whether it was a fumble and 2 interceptions. So they've got players on that defense that are opportunistic, that if the ball's there, they're going to take it and they're going to do some damage with it once they have it. So this is one that I could see potentially getting out of hand if it goes that way. But I also see this as a game that is one of the more important in Zach Wilson's career, because he has to show some progress. He has to show things are going in the right direction. He has to show that he has taken a step. And if he doesn't do it, it might start getting a little ugly.
And it's an interesting, you mentioned them taking the ball to the house on picks, but you look at the way the defense, the pass defense for the Eagles breaks down. They're very good against deep passes. 72%. They play so much zone, it makes it tough. Quarterbacks are only completing 44% of passes over 20 yards, but they give up the short passes. So in theory, this is a great chance for Zach Wilson to like work on what he needs to work on, right? Which is the short passes, the check downs, because if you're going to be successful against this Eagles defense, that's what's going to do it. Do you think that the way that defense shapes up against the Jets, does that help the staff just nail that point home to Zach that, dude, just take the short pass?
Theoretically, yeah. But the one thing I'll say to him is that he has been taking the short pass. I mean, he tried to take the short pass against the Texans. In fact, the Jets' first touchdown drive. Yeah, the Jets' first touchdown drive against Houston, that's what they did. They dinked and dunked all the way down to Houston's throat, and then they scored a touchdown as a result. The biggest issue with the Jets is that Zach's been missing the dinks and dunks. Zach's been missing the easy throws. Zach's been missing the gimmies. I mean, we talked this week about Saleh went on and on this week on a press conference about Zach Wilson's superpower. And he gave a great quote, which kind of made me the Marvel DC junkie, where he said, Clark Kent walked around as a normal person until somebody screamed help. And what it means is like Zach Wilson has this uncanny playmaking ability, and this superpower is the way that he describes it, not me. Like Robert Saleh describes it as a superpower that when the play breaks down, Zach can run around, go left, go right, go center, go up, go down, go sideways, and then flip his wrist, and the ball goes 50 yards down the field like you saw against the Titans, and he finds Corey Davis for a touchdown or Keelan Cole for a big gainer, right? Like that's his superpower. And so the Jets want him play within the structure of the offense, and then when you need your superpower, go and use your superpower. At this point, I'll be honest, I wouldn't be talking about superpowers anymore. I wouldn't be talking about these massive plays. That's not what I would be doing. What I would be talking about is getting your quarterback to just complete 60% of his passes at this point. I mean, that's what I would be doing. I mean, look, it's 7 games. The guy's 2-5 as a starter, completing 57.6% of his passes. He's got 1,300 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, and a quarterback rating of 62.9. So, look, maybe I'm being cynical here. Maybe I'm being negative, and I'm still positive, Connor, and I still want to keep the positive juices flowing. But at the end of the day, like, I wouldn't be sitting here talking about like Zach's superpower. I wouldn't be talking about playmaking. I wouldn't be talking about off script. I would be saying, look, we love that you can do it. We believe that you can do it. But let's just focus on the offense. Hammer that home. Because, again, a superpower would be like just complete 65% of your passes. Like, that would be like the Jets would love that. Forget like if you're getting 57, 58 completion percentage and then occasionally a big one, but in response, you also get 10 interceptions trying to make the big one happen. Just don't go for the big one. Like, he needs to just get back to getting the fundamentals down and the basics down. Because, again, we talked about it on Monday when we did this show, or Tuesday when we did this show. There was an 80-yard touchdown to be had with a slant to Elijah Moore. All he had to do was it was like a run pass read option, faked it to the running back, pulled it back, was like, there's my guy. I got him. But instead of setting his feet and just throwing a 5-yard slant where Moore's going to catch it and be gone, maybe he's tackled at like the 10-yard line, but it's going to go for like an 80, 90-yard touchdown potentially with his breakaway speed and his youth. He's not getting caught from behind. Zach like doesn't set his feet, sidearms it. Instead of just throwing the ball, he sidearms it, and it goes inside and is nearly intercepted. Like, was he trying to go with his superpower there of like throwing off script and flick it? Like, just don't do that. Like, just play within the offense. Get to completing 65% of your passes. Get to moving the Jets consistently up and down the field. Get to hitting guys open and hitting the open receivers and getting the ball to the open receivers so the receivers can make plays on it. Because that's what Mike White did. That's what Joe Flacco did. That's what Josh Johnson did. They didn't try to make too much of it. They didn't try to break into any superhero powers or anything like that. All they did was see the open guy and throw to the open guy and hit him with accurate balls. We haven't seen Zach do that in 7 starts. Even in the Titan game, we've gone back to this several times. Even in that Titans game, he had Corey Davis open on a 10-yard out to win the game, and he sailed it over his head. He had Ryan Griffin open right in front of him on a play-action rollout, and he bounced it to him. 2 throws that would have won that game outright. And instead, the Jets won the game because Javelin Guidry had an open field tackle on Derrick Henry, something I'm still trying to explain because it doesn't defy the laws of physics. But Javelin Guidry, open field tackle on Derrick Henry in overtime, when Derrick Henry, if he's not tackled by Javelin Guidry, is going to the house, and the Jets are losing that game. So Zach Wilson's only win as a starter, I mean, that's also a major part of this. Yeah, the throw to Corey Davis, a big one. Throw to Keelan Cole, throw to Seamus Carr, big plays. But that's a big part of it as well. He struggled with hitting those gimme throws this entire season. He's got to start doing that. Make that your superpower. Make that you never miss a gimme throw. That would be a killer superpower instead of the one the Jets keep talking about. And like, in my opinion, now is not the time to talk about that. Now is about getting your young quarterback to start playing some decent football, because right now that hasn't been happening. So whatever you got to do to get him to do that, whatever you got to do to get him there, do it. Whatever it takes. Don't talk about superpowers. Don't talk about bombs. Don't talk about all that stuff. Talk about making the easy parts of playing quarterback easy, because right now they look so remarkably difficult for Wilson.
Yeah, make it dull, make it boring. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back,
we'll talk about Corey Wilson and all those, Corey Davis and Zach Wilson, the guys that I completely did not talk about. We can get to that.
And the defense when we come back.
Can't wait, listeners. I've heard us talk a lot about Magic Spoon because it's just so good. Growing up, cereal was one of the best parts about being a kid, but we had to give it up because we realized it was full of sugar and junk that you really shouldn't eat, until Magic Spoon came along. There are 0 grams of sugar, 13 to 14 grams of protein, and only 4 net grams of carbs in each serving, and it's only 140 calories a serving. It's keto-friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, and low-carb, and you could build your very own custom box. Available flavors to build your own bundle include cocoa, fruity, frosted, peanut butter, blueberry, cinnamon, cookies and cream, and maple waffle. So, if you want to test it out, go to magicspoon.com/wait to grab a custom bundle of cereal and try it today. And be sure to use our promo code WAIT at checkout to save $5 off your order. Magic Spoon is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 100% happiness guarantee. So if you don't like it for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember, get your next delicious bowl of guilt-free cereal at magicspoon.com/wait and use the code WAIT to save $5 off. Thanks to Magic Spoon for sponsoring this episode. This podcast is brought to you by DirecTV Stream. Does this sound familiar? You've got one device that lets you catch the game live, another that lets you stream your favorite shows, you're watching sports highlights on your phone, and you've got your neighbor's best friends log in for the good stuff. Well, I want to tell you about a simple way to get all the entertainment you love without all the hassle. It's called DirecTV Stream, and it brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, so you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. That means no more juggling remotes and no need to buy another device again. And the best part, there's no annual contract. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directv.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package.
So if you were to look at the rundown for this podcast, the first thing on it is how will the absence of Corey Davis and Keelan Cole affect Zach Wilson, which is what I asked Connor at the beginning of the show. But Connor doesn't look at the rundown. So we're going to get back to that question now. Connor, your top two receivers, not talent-wise, obviously, you're going to have Elijah Moore, but having those two guys down, how does that affect this offense?
I think I go back and forth on it because I think Corey Davis is among the Jets' more reliable options. And I say that knowing, obviously, he's dealt with drops, but he is a player that is always in the right place at the right time. You know, he's big-bodied, 6'3", 6'4", physical guy. Theoretically, he's one of those guys that you can say is a quarterback's best friend because he attacks the ball, like I said, always in the right place at the right time. And when the ball's around him, he has a pretty decent catch radius to go up there and get that. So the Jets are going to miss that because, again, it's another weapon that's not on the field. Keelan Cole is more of like the stretch the field, go deep kind of a guy, and speed and athleticism. He makes some crazy catches, but his absence, I don't think, will be felt as much or nearly as much as Corey Davis is because Davis is the guy that, again, the Jets got to be the safety valve. So what we saw when Zach was playing pretty well during training camp, what we saw was that when things went down on third down, he went to Corey Davis. When he needed a play in the red zone, he went to Corey Davis. He found his big-bodied guy who would box out and out-physical the defensive backs, and he'd get on the ball. And I think the Jets will probably miss his intensity and leadership too, because you see whenever he does catch the ball, and again, I know he's dealt with drops, but whenever Corey does catch the ball, he treats every play like it's like he reminds me a lot of Quincy Enunwa in this regard, in that every time he catches the ball, he runs as if his ass is on fire. He runs as if this is the last time he's ever going to play football. He's throwing his shoulder. He's carrying everyone 10 extra yards. Obviously, it did lead to the fumble the one game, but that intensity of once he gets up and he's flexing and he's screaming and he's yelling, that invigorates and gets the rest of your teammates and everyone else fired up. So the Jets will miss that. However, the first 6 starts of Zach's career, when Corey Davis was out there, he almost had Corey Davis tunnel vision a lot. And it was that whenever it almost seemed like if the play was designed to go to Corey Davis as his first read, Zach locked eyes on Corey Davis and he gave Corey Davis almost felt like 4.5 seconds to get open before going to his next read. And that's one of the reasons why you saw some turnovers. That's why you saw an abundance of sacks. That's why you saw a lot of quarterback hits, because he was never getting off his first read. He wasn't going, Corey's not open, let's go to the next guy. He was going, Corey, wait for Corey. Okay, now I'll go to a second one. Boom, he's hit. So I think almost not having Corey Davis in that offense, it could theoretically have a little bit of an impact, like when you saw Jeremy Shockey leave the Giants during their first Super Bowl run, where you finally saw Eli go, okay, that I've got. Now, Shockey was a boisterous, you know what? So he was more like, throw me the ball, which a young Eli Manning was like, all right, I'm going to go get him the ball. I need to get him his touches. I'm going to get him his touches. When Shockey was removed, suddenly Eli started spreading the ball a lot more, and you saw the Giants offense as a whole improve, and they used that offense to help get them to the Super Bowl. Matt Stafford with Calvin Johnson. Calvin Johnson obviously was not an a-hole by any stretch of the imagination like Shockey was, but he was a guy that demanded the ball in terms of his physical ability. I mean, the Lions went into games where they were like, you know what? We want to get Calvin Johnson the football. We want to get him the football. When Calvin Johnson retired, the next couple of years were some of the best statistical careers of Matt Stafford's career, because suddenly he wasn't thinking, I got this dominant player outside. I want to get him the football. I'm going to do everything to get him the football. I'm just going to start forcing it to him at times. It was, okay, now I've got, Marvin Jones and some of these other guys. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3 and just throw to whoever the guy open is. Not having Corey Davis obviously is not boisterous like Shockey was. He's not nearly as talented as Calvin Johnson was, but he is a player that it seemed like, from my perspective, watching these games, that Zach would lock in on and say, I want to get this dude the football. Like, he's my number one guy. I want to get him the football. Maybe it's because he's the only player really throughout training camp that he worked with every single day. Maybe it's because, like I said, he's the big-bodied physical guy who can create openings and work himself open with his body. I don't know the exact reason, but it seemed like if Corey was the read, that's where Zach was going. With him not in there now, and you're going out there with, obviously you'd like to have Keelan Cole, but you've got Denzel Mims, you've got now Braxton Berrios, Jamison Crowder, Elijah Moore. I don't think, aside from maybe Elijah, that Zach doesn't have a rapport or a undoubted chemistry with any of those guys. And I don't think any of those guys are the type of receiver that Zach's going into this one saying, I need to feed him the ball. Maybe Elijah to an extent, but Elijah's also a rookie. So I think this actually not having Corey Davis in there, it does open up the possibility that you could see Zach now improve his read progressions where he's going, okay, Elijah's not there, I'm going to Braxton. Braxton's not there, I'm going to Jameis. Jameson's not there, I'm going to Denzel. Like, you could see him actually going through his progressions now more so than I want to get the ball to Corey. I'm going to make sure I get the ball to Corey on this play, be damned. I'm going to force the ball in because there were times where he was forcing the ball to Corey Davis several times, and they turned the ball over because of it. I think you could potentially see that subside somewhat. And obviously for the fan perspective, no Corey Davis and no Keelan Cole means that you should get a healthy dosing of Denzel Mims.
Which gets everybody excited. And in this chat everywhere, everybody wants to see Denzel Mims, right? All right, let's switch to the other side of the football and, potential to be some scary stuff. When you look at how this Jets defense has handled the run a little bit this season, you think back to the Colts game when they gave up 260 yards on the ground. Well, the Eagles come in leading the league with 157.9 yards per game. They're second in the league in yards per carry at 5.2. So what do the Jets need to do differently? How does this Eagles running attack also, Connor, compare to what the Colts running attack does?
Yeah, I think that's the crazy thing, right? Because that game against the Colts was probably, I've covered a lot of really bad football games, but that one was probably among the more embarrassing for a defense because the Jets were coming off the Mike White game. They were riding high. They were like the Cinderella story of the NFL. Mike White was Offensive Player of the Week, Nick MVP. They think they've got a chance against a Colts.
I love that you always include the Nick MVP.
You got it. Yeah, absolutely. Out the MVP. They were things that were going their way, and they were finally a feel good story, and guys were feeling good, and the guys during the locker room were going crazy, and they finally had a chance on Thursday Night Football primetime to kind of show the world like the Jets aren't the laughing stock that people thought that they were. And instead against the Colts, like they just went, the score, was 45-30 final. So obviously the Colts, the Jets made it closer, but that game was never close. The Colts were up to a 42-10 lead at one point. I got the stats down here. So they scored on their first 4 possessions. They almost scored on the 5th because they had a 4th and goal at the Jets 1-yard line. Even though they stopped on that one, they scored on their next 2 possessions. You had Jonathan Taylor run for 172 yards and 2 touchdowns, just 19 carries. Hines had 74 yards and a touchdown on just 6 carries. And then obviously Carson Wentz with the defense, like, oh my God, we need to stop the run now. They brought everyone in. And that's when Wentz went 22 of 30 for 272 with 3 touchdowns and no interceptions. That's like just an ass beating. But the difference between the Colts and the Eagles, and the Colts have a number of players, Frank Wright and so many others on that coaching staff come from Philadelphia. They run a very similar playbook to what the Philadelphia Eagles do. There's obviously the Sirianni is from Indianapolis. Like, he worked for Frank Wright last year. So there's just the crossover is endless. But the difference between the Eagles and the Colts is that the Colts, while Carson Wentz is a somewhat mobile quarterback, he's more of like an elusive quarterback, right? Like he's not on plays trying to run. There are times when the Eagles go out there where they're just saying Jalen Hurts, their quarterback, is a running back. And they run him on sweeps and powers and things like this, where they run him as a running back, and then he'll throw. But it's almost like runner first, quarterback second. And earlier in the season, they were trying to throw the ball a ton with Hurts and let him air it out. Didn't really work. The Eagles' resurgence is when they've kind of rededicated themselves to the run game. And not only do they have a solid committee with Miles Sanders, who's had 458 yards this year, Boston Scott, 285, Jordan Howard, 274, and then Gainwell, 155. But Hurts is like the back that runs the actual offense. Like the rushing attack runs through him. The guy's got 695 rushing yards this year. That's an average of 57.9 per game. You extend that through a 17-game season, and he's on pace for 984 yards, which would be the third most in a season from a quarterback rushing in NFL history. So, like, the Jets are going to have to watch this guy because you've seen in games against the Lions, games against the Saints, some of these games that the Eagles have won, a game against the Denver Broncos, they won those games because of their ground game, but their ground game was so effective because of the quarterback. I mean, Hurts is popping off 80 yards a game, it seems like, every other time. So if the Jets are undisciplined, if they over pursue, if they lock in on the running back and let the quarterback go free, he's going to run rampant. I mean, he's going to go crazy. And the one thing that I found fascinating is that Ulbrich said that he has basically challenged his guys, and the Jets have this 24-hour rule, right? And the Jets had it under Adam Gase as well, where you don't talk about a game after 24 hours. That's the only time you talk about it. It's 24 hours, in and out, you're done. That's it after it. Well, they've been spending a lot of time this week talking about the Colts game. They've been spending a lot of time remembering that Colts game, and not just because of the similarities between the two offenses, but because of how the Jets were embarrassed. This defense, and this is per Ulbrich, is looking at this game as an opportunity almost to write the score. They see this as an opportunity to say, we are not the team that we were. We are not that team that was beat up and blown out in Indianapolis at Lucas Oil Stadium. We're a better defense. We've been a better defense against the Dolphins. We were a better defense against the Texans. And against this team that's averaging basically 200 rushing yards a game over their last 5. This is our opportunity to shut them down and show the rest of the world, as Ulbrich said, quote, we're coming, unquote. That's a lot of talk for the Jets going into this one. They got to back it up, because if you say we want to show the world after this game we're coming, we want to show that we're better, we've been focusing on this, we didn't want a repeat of the Colts performance, what a great opportunity, there's a pit in our stomachs, all the things that Ulbrich, CJ Mosley, all these guys said yesterday and the day before, you can't say all that and then go have the Eagles run for 200 and beat you pretty bad at MetLife Stadium. So this one's shaping up to go to one extreme. Either the Jets are going to upset the Eagles, or the Eagles are probably going to run this one down the Jets' throat. And I'm curious to see how this one's going to go. But I do think the Jets have a chance in it.
You mentioned not over pursuing, and you look at this defense, and obviously CJ Mosley should know better than to over pursue with the amount of experience he has. But then you have Quincy Williams, who is a guy who just goes all out, right? Just like a maniac on the field. That's the kind of guy you worry about, even though he's been playing so well lately.
Yeah, you know what's funny is, and I asked Ulbrich about this. I talked to Quincy yesterday one-on-one for a feature that we're going to run on The Athletic next week. And one of the things I asked Ulbrich about is, when he first got here, when Quincy first got here, it seemed like, and I probably used the wrong word because I said undisciplined, and he actually used a better word for it. But it seemed like he was just playing at 120 miles an hour every time when he was first in the lineup. And because of how fast he was playing, because of his athleticism, when he met a ball carrier, when he met a defensive, an offensive player, anyone, receiver, tight end, running back, he would wallop him, and when he walloped him, that obviously put him on all the highlights because all the big hits, and that's what sells. But when Quincy wasn't making a big hit, he wasn't playing really well. In fact, I said undisciplined. The way that Ulbrich phrased it was perfect. He said he was out of position. Is that it was either a big play or he was out of position. Big play, out of position. Ever since they took him out of the lineup and they put Jared Davis in, and then they took Jared Davis out and they put Quincy Williams back in, that hasn't been the case. It almost feels like he has been in position and much more disciplined far more often, so that he's still making his big plays. But when he's not making his big plays, he's not hurting the defense either. And what Ulbrich said was that this is just a player now that's starting to get comfortable within the scheme. He's starting to learn this scheme. He's starting to understand how this scheme works and how those around him work. So he knows when to take his chances, when not to take his chances. And when that happens, when you start matching the understanding of a defense to the point where you don't have to necessarily think about what you're doing and you just have to go out there and do it, you naturally play so much faster. When you're a player like Quincy Williams, who has this next level athletic ability, you playing faster on top of already being an incredibly fast linebacker really takes your game to the next level. And it's one of the reasons why Ulbrich was the first person to say it, is that when this guy keeps getting better, he has Pro Bowls in his future. He's a Pro Bowl type linebacker, because so few people, you match their physicality with speed and athleticism with then an understanding and in a defense that maximizes those traits, you start to see what you're seeing from Quincy Williams. And I know that he's out there now, like kind of saying the Pro Bowl train and he wants to be on the Pro Bowl this year. I don't think it's happening this year, but if he keeps it up like this and the Jets continue to play well and the Jets continue to build this team and maybe next year, they're a 7 or 8 win team, and the year after that they're a 9 or 10 win team, and then suddenly they're in the playoffs. Quincy's a guy that between his big hits, his acceleration, his knack for finding the ball, I could absolutely see him being a Pro Bowl player. And it's pretty crazy the Jets were able to just get him off the waiver wire from the Jaguars, because in the Jaguars defense, they didn't believe he was a scheme fit.
Speaking of Pro Bowl, there's no Jets really sniffing it as far as the voting goes. Quinnen Williams, the closest, Quincy's brother, actually. But yeah, it's tough when you're on a team that has this record to get noticed like that. We're going to take another break. We'll come back with our picks, which kind of positive Connor on the picks last week. We'll keep it going. Whether you've been in a relationship for years or if you're just getting started, having confidence that comes from preparation means you're free to enjoy the moment when that moment comes, even though you are far from ordinary. The truth is that ED is really common. In fact, 52% of guys aged 40 to 70 experience some form of erectile dysfunction. Go to GetRoman.com/wait now to speak to a U.S. licensed healthcare professional about ED and get $15 off your first month of treatment. The benefits of ED treatment can help you reconnect with your partner. Roman Ready is confidence personified. It is the self-assurance that comes from knowing you've prepared yourself for the moment when the intimacy arrives. Roman's system is completely confidential, totally discreet. There's no big logos or labels on the packaging. With Roman, you can get a free online evaluation and ongoing care for your ED, all from the comfort and privacy of your home. A U.S. licensed healthcare professional will work with you to find the best treatment plan. If medication is appropriate, it ships to you free with 2-day shipping. The whole process is straightforward, convenient, and discreet. Getting started, also simple. Just go to GetRoman.com/wait and complete an online visit. Go to GetRoman.com/wait today. And if you're prescribed, get $15 off your first month of ED treatment. Make sure you're ready to have confidence and control this fall. Roman Ready.
It's fall, which means football and basketball are in full swing. And for many of us, there's no better way to enjoy the games than by having some skin in the game, which is why BetMGM remains the exclusive betting partner of The Athletic. And as a fan of The Athletic, you can bet $10 to win $150 plus a free 3-month subscription or extension to your subscription with The Athletic when you bet with BetMGM using our promo code. Just sign up at BetMGM.com using the promo code TheAthleticPod at checkout to take advantage of this special offer from the king of sportsbooks. That's bet $10 to win $150 plus 3 months free from The Athletic at BetMGM using the promo code TheAthleticPod at checkout. New customer offer. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions.
All right, and now it is time for our picks presented by BetMGM. Connor, we made the picks for Thanksgiving, and we decided ahead of time that they were not going to count towards the season-long standings, and you nailed it 3-0. So that pretty much sums up your season. But overall, you went 2-1 last week. I went 2-1 last week. Marissa 1-2, so a little slip up at the top of the standings, opening the door a little bit. Marissa, you're up first.
All right. So I've had a few bad weeks recently, but still in first place, slow and steady. So
it wasn't so bad when you got promoted this week, though.
Yes.
Senior podcast producer Marissa Morris.
Took 40 minutes for that to get in. There you go.
I'm very humble, Connor. No, I'm very excited, and I love getting to work with all of my different shows. They all are unique, and I'm very lucky to be part of all of them. So, including this one, working with you guys.
That was coach speak right there.
Yes. All right. So, Broncos at Chiefs. It's a 9.5 spread. We've talked a lot this year about the Chiefs, and every time Tim picks them, they don't cover. I am actually going to be on the Broncos side of this. I think that's a big spread. So I'm going to go It's Sunday night game, I believe. Yes, 8:20. So I'm going to go Broncos plus 9.5 with that one. Now, Jets fans, I don't want you to hate me, but I know this game is very important for the Eagles. And after getting embarrassed last week for the Giants, 6.5 back at MetLife Stadium, I got to go Eagles minus 6.5. And then my last pick is going to be Steelers plus 4.5 versus the Ravens. I watched the Ravens last week. Unfortunately, they beat the Browns, but I think the Steelers need to save their season too. So in order to potentially make the playoffs. So I'm going to go Steelers plus 4.5 for that last pick.
Marissa's 18-15 in front in the standings. Connor, you're 16-17 now. So back within two games. What do you got?
Get the brooms out. We're back. Here we go. So actually it's funny because the two teams that I bet the most are the Bengals and the Chargers, and those two teams are playing each other right now. So the first one I'm going to go with is the Bengals -3 versus the Chargers. I love Justin Herbert. I think Justin Herbert's a stud. But that Charger team's a little funky right now, and it's a little weird right now. And they're not doing a lot of the things that I thought they were going to do. They haven't taken off like you kind of expected them to after those first 3-4 games of the regular season when Herbert was, a hot shot pick to be the MVP and all that stuff. So the Bengals, I think, are back. They dealt with their little hiccups after losing to the Jets, and they kind of had some ramifications, aftershocks of that over the next couple of weeks. But it looks like they're back to playing really good football. Chase is still, I think, the front runner to be Rookie of the Year on offense. Burrow is a good player, a little bit of a gunslinger, but a really good quarterback. The offensive line's playing well. They also have P. Ryan behind Joe Mixon, has a great 1-2 punch at running back, and the defense is playing good football as well. The Chargers, obviously not home. They're a different team on the road, so I like the Bengals -3. I love that that's a -3 game because you get it at, you can still push even if it's just a field goal game. If it goes down to 2.5, I like it even more. But Cincinnati -3 versus the Chargers, I like that one as my first pick. The other one, and I don't usually do this, but I do think the Jets are going to keep this one close against the Eagles. So that's 7-point line. I think that's fat.
I had it at 6.5. I had it at 6.5.
Yeah, so it's going the other way. I mean, this one I can't say it's because the line I got this from our old sponsors, and they are no longer our friends. So I have the Eagles at the Jets. I do like the Jets +7 to try to cover that one. The home dog. They seem fired up.
We're calling that one 6.5 because that's what it was on BetMGM.
BetMGM.
Okay, but I like 7 more, so we're going to keep an eye on that to see if it changes at all before kickoff. Either way, Jets 6.5, Jets 7. I actually think that's probably going to be a 4-point game or so. I think there's a chance the Jets actually win it. I mean, if they can shut Herbert. If they can shut Hurts down,
that would be pretty impressive if the Jets could shut Herbert down this weekend.
Yeah, that ain't happening. But I think they could shut Hurts down. If they shut Hurts down and force him to throw, I mean, he can be had. He's not a good quarterback. Like I will go down in the boat saying this. Anyone who tells me Herbert, just Jalen Hurts is actually an NFL quarterback, go ahead, clip this and save it because the guy
he's going to set some records this weekend. We all know.
Well, the Jets are bad, so he might do that, but he's not a good quarterback. And the longer the Eagles stick with him as their quarterback, they're just going to put themselves in turmoil. He's not that good. He's a great athlete, great guy. You can say all his teammates love him, but he's not a week 1 to week 18 NFL quarterback. He's just not. He's limited in what he can do from a passing perspective. And if the Jets can force him to pass the ball, you will see that on Sunday. So I think the Jets have a chance to keep that close. I think the Jets have a chance actually to pull the upset as well. I don't think the Eagles are as good as some people do. And the final game that I like is the Patriots at the Bills on Monday night. Mac Jones sanity is getting a little bit hot. The Mac Jones sanity is getting a little bit crazy. I think the Bills are going to have enough of that, and I think that could actually be a game that is a rout. So I like the Bills -3. I actually would like the Bills at a lot more than that because I think they win that one comfortably.
I'm 14-18-1, by the way. I try to not have to say that, but it's been a rough go. I actually agree with you on that one, Connor. And the Patriots have been really good to me as far as these picks go this season, but I feel like the win streak, the way it's at, they're a little banged up now. Buffalo, kind of wounded animal. They need to win more at this point, I think. So Buffalo -3. I got that too. I'm taking the Dolphins -4 against the Giants. The Giants won last week, which is just weird, but I feel like it's a return to reality this week. The Dolphins, I wish it was -3, but -4, I'll still go with it. And then finally, I'm so fed up with the Seahawks that I'm picking against them this week. Niners -3.5 at Seattle. So this will be the week that the Seahawks find their game and get resurgence and win one. But I'm going with the Niners -3.5. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the Can't Wait podcast. Thanks to everyone for listening or watching. You can save 33% off a subscription to The Athletic. Go to theathletic.com/can'twait. We will be back with you early next week with a full recap of the Eagles game. Could they stop the run? Did Zach Wilson get things going? We'll react next week. We'll talk to you then.